Yo, what's up, guys? It's Co-op. Today we're going to be taking a look at some statistics involving the meta for doubles and singles, and not so much just my general opinion about it, but the stats that have been collected. We're going to look at stats on how characters have placed in doubles and singles since all characters have been released, and then we're going to look at some that are just from this season. The stuff that's from when every character has been released is from Seraphy on Twitter. Follow her if you're at all interested in stats. She does a lot of good work. And then the other stuff is from Team DRX, which I'll also have their Twitter handle on the screen. Both people do good work. Follow them, please. Anyway, so the first subset is going to be from tournaments that are listed on SSB Wiki as national tournaments for Smash 4. So first up, we're going to look at doubles. And not surprisingly, Cloud is way up there with 245. And no one else has passed 100. In a game where grab is so strong, because if you don't know, when you grab someone and throw them, the thrower has 18 frames of invulnerability or intangibility, one of the two. And that, coupled along with his amazing grab follow-ups and his amazing throws too, make Cloud the strongest character I think we've ever seen in doubles, and maybe needs to be banned, but I already had a video on that topic. We don't need to go into that. After that, you see our main supports with Diddy, Sheik, Bayo, and Mario. I think Bayo is actually going to rise as we've seen this season. Some players do a lot of work in doubles with Bayo, whether that be Mistake, Captain Zack. I don't think Salem's performed too well, but Tweak is starting to use Bayonetta and seeing success. And then past that, you get to characters that you just see high caliber players playing and doing well in doubles. Fox with Larry, you have Mars and Nairo for ZSS. All the time that ESAM has been playing Pikachu gives him these results. And then as we get farther down, it's just more of the same thing. There's a player who is very good with this character. They're probably making top 8. Only one that's a little interesting to me is Rosalina, just because I think she's a very poor doubles character with her size, lightweight, and Luma. Just since there are so many hitboxes being thrown out, it's hard to keep Luma alive and also use her to your advantage. But outside of that, I expect most of these characters to be around here. Sonic maybe a little bit lower. I don't think he's so good in teams, and Corrin as well. But this isn't a tier list. This is just the actual placings. But I like viewing these as if they were a tier list, because this is pretty close to like if you looked at a doubles tier list. Even though I think Bayo would definitely be second. And then we look at everyone who has either 0 results in top 8 since everyone's been released at the national tournaments up to 19. And when you look at all of these characters, it's very easy to see they all have some sort of weakness that makes them just not worth playing in doubles generally. Besides the fact that Cloud is able to be picked, they either don't have good hitboxes, they don't have good speed, they don't have kill power, or they need a lot of room to work well, such as like your projectile users who want their space to think about it and get their projectiles out and that sort of thing. The only thing to really note is that Mega Man's got a decent amount of results, which I wouldn't expect to see up there. And I honestly would have thought Falco and maybe Ganon would actually have 1 result to their name, just because I think they can be pretty strong in doubles, because their weaknesses can be covered a little bit, and Ganon just hits so hard. Outside of that, this is kind of what you'd expect, and I kind of like looking at this as the bottom part of a doubles tier list, because I've always said Mac's a really good support character, because if you grab his teammate and throw them, if he times it right, he's going to hit you with at least 20% on an up smash, or just do a kill confirm combo on you. Falcon's really fast and strong and has a knee out of throws. I think Yoshi does pretty well with his double jump armor and his strong aerials. I wouldn't have expected Mewtwo there, more so just, alright, he's got the representation for it. But outside of that, it's cool to theorize what a doubles tier list might look like and how this could maybe give a little insight to what it should be like. So next up, we're going to go to the other set of data from Seraphy, which is singles since all the characters have been out. And again, to no one's surprise, Cloud's up there with 130. We see no one else having more than 89, and we see Sheik after that. Again, not another surprise. You see a decent amount of top level of those characters, especially if Zero's data had been counted, but I don't believe everyone was out when he was still playing Sheik. Diddy, Bayonetta, ZSS, you see a little probably inflated by having 2 very good contenders. In the top 10/15, I know Mars will drop, but still, Sonic, I'm very surprised to see, but I think the number is actually only going to rise as Ken is now a top 10 player. We don't see Como use him as much, but he has had a little bit success this season switching to Sonic, and also Manny doing really well recently at tournaments like Too Hot to Handle. Then you've got Rosa, Mario, Fox, If you look at this as like a top 9, it's not too bad. Obviously, this goes back to B6, which I believe is early last year. And from like last year's perspective, you'd say, oh, Mario's top 10, but now you're kind of like, oh, is he? Outside of that, it's pretty solid. ZSS would be a little bit high, but no overall problems. Then we go down a little bit. You see Mewtwo and Marth pretty high. Meta Knight DK. DK being a whole 2 tiers higher than Bowser, which is surprising as the grapplers are usually rated pretty closely to each other. But I think the reason that this is happening is because DK is a lot easier to pick up, and most people are playing characters that like to use good aerials and not stay so much grounded, and that's kind of Bowser's game plan, is staying grounded. Whereas DK, it's like, all right, percents are easy to learn. He's got a really good combo back air, and maybe just a little bit more fun for people. Shows that more players picking him could lead to this difference in results. We see Mega Man pretty high. That's probably inflated from when Kameme was playing a lot and doing very well. But we see characters like Luigi pretty low, Ness low, and I'd expect them to be a little bit higher, especially if it was a real tier list. Ryu, Corrin, Olimar, a lot of people in that H category are characters that have one representative that just like hammers away like all of their results. Esam for Pikachu, Samsora for Peach, Fatality for Falcon, so forth and so on. I don't need to tell you who mains all of those characters. But yeah, I actually really like looking at this list over the long course of Smash history with all the characters being out, because this could kind of be like a tier list if, consider on your worst matchups, you could switch off to a character, or you could at least get an even matchup when you play this character. Because then that shows you where like the grapplers have potential. Because it's like, okay, those characters that are going to juggle you forever, Cloud, that'll keep you out if the Sheik plays well, Sheik. You can avoid all of that. Rosalina, oh god. This gives you a little bit, I think, of a more accurate tier list, because it's like I can cover some of my matchups if I need to with better characters. Like Meta Knight's also right there with DK, and I think he's in the same spot where we can see Leo pull him out when he needs him, but not all the time. Like, oh, he wants something else for Bayonetta. I think it's just a nice food for thought for a unique sort of list, and shows the potential of characters in the counter picking that can go on at the highest level. Okay, so that's all the stuff from Seraphy. So now we're going to look at this season. And this is where a character places at S tier events. Consistent first place with Bayonetta. That I don't think comes as a surprise to anyone because of how well Salem has done this season and the 2 S tiers he won, maybe 3. He's also got Boot Camp under his belt along with the DreamHack and Evo, obviously. Consistent top 3. Marth up there thanks to Leo. ZSS up there because of Nairo, of course. And this is how you would expect it to go, but not necessarily in a tier list sort of way. Sheik outside of the top 5 at a consistent top 8, but that makes sense due to how much harder she has to work against all the characters below her and above her. Corrin really high thanks to Cosmos and Leo. I believe as long as the character won a game when a player used them, they got counted for that placing. So if Corrin was used by Leo in top 8 and won a game, it counted as them getting a placing there. Not the best method, but it's hard otherwise to even count secondaries at all, so I think it's worth a shot at doing it this way at least. Sonic, Rosa, Mario, kind of round out your top 10, top 11. Almost how you'd see it on the tier list, except for Marth's pretty high and Corrin there too. But Mewtwo, DK, Ryu, Pikachu, about where you'd say they would be. Those are really strong characters, but they start to get gated out by that point in the tournament. Surprisingly, another huge gap between DK and Bowser, but I think it's about the same reasons I already repeated. Don't need to rehash that. And then you have the characters who have mains that are putting them in those spots all the time. Like we see Elegant get a lot of 17th and 13th outside of his GTX performance and 2GGC. He sits around there. Same with Samsora. Mega Man, I want to know where those results are coming from this season, because that's a very high spot for a character that's not on anyone's radar. And if this was close to tier list, he would not be there. Duck Hunt doing a great job showing up too. And then Lucina, obviously another pocket character, which I think helps this. And you need to remember about these lists is that secondaries can get rewarded a really high placing just for having one game. And then after that, it honestly shows you a kind of good idea of low tiers, that they're all just really getting stuck, especially at a high event. It's almost impossible with any of those characters that have never placed in a top 32 to make it there, even if you're the best with that character. I believe some, like Kirby, we've only seen like a 33rd once maybe at this type of event, if not 49th or 65th. After this one, we're actually going to go to look at S and A tier events combined, and this is going to dilute a little bit, but we're starting to get a look at things that aren't just the highest level of play. Bayonetta is probably the biggest note amongst the top tiers who has the big drop. Cloud and Diddy still sitting pretty high, which I want to note because we'll see some changes to that. And besides that, things look to stay relatively the same. Corrin has a huge drop as well, and you start to see Peach gets pulled down a little bit by results. Mega Man is still sitting in a really nice spot, which I think is kind of getting carried by his S tier results. And then we also get a little bit better understanding of the low tiers in the game because now we have a little bit more representation from them. It's a little bit easier. So who can make this top 32 at an A tier event? You can't do it in an S, but this is where you're going to get those like fringe results that can give you a little bit more information, which I think is important to know all of this if you are ever trying to really use results-based tier lists. Like, here's the potential we're seeing from this character and where they're at. Now we're going to do something a little bit interesting with the S and A tier placements. We're actually going to remove all of the top players or whoever has the most placements for their character. The only one I think that's really worth noting is that for Sonic, it's actually Como and it's not Ken. And that's because I believe Ken has 2 top 8 placements at S tier events, and Como has 4 with Sonic. So he was removed because he was contributing the most to it. And here we see Diddy finally drops out of the top 3, and he actually, Bayonetta moves or stays in the top 8, because once we start opening up the pools a little bit bigger and get rid of their best results, you're going to have fewer at the top, and it's just going to be a little bit more scattered and spread out throughout the bottom. And you see that you also kill the low tiers, having their like low tier hero and best player carrying any of their results if there were any in a top 32 at A and S tier events. Besides that, Fox drops pretty hard. A lot of the characters where you realize, oh, they only have that one really good rep and everyone else is just a high tier player, not a top tier. Rosa drops. Marth obviously drops hella far. Corrin and Mewtwo actually don't get hit as hard as you think, but I think that's because their upper echelon representative is pretty close to the next one, so it doesn't change anything too much. Mega Man still sitting there. Another gap between the grapplers, as you would still expect, and everything stays about the same. And lastly, something so we can double the sampling size is we're actually going to add B tiers to the mix. So looking at this, we're still sitting at only Cloud dominating in every level of the game. And I really like looking at this data set. I know I just started on it, but I wanted to mention that this helps you paint a picture of the metagame, not just at the highest level, but at a mid to high level. Which I think is good to look at, and a lot of players only consider when making their tier list like how they see it at their level or how it would be in an optimal world with everyone being like the best with their character. Whereas this gives you a little dose of reality to see how things work out, and you have your who people agree are the top 3 there at the top 3, and then it gets a little bit muddled with ZSS and Sonic. Sheik's still hanging in there. I expected to see her drop a little bit, but she holds on there. Corrin and Mewtwo returned back up to consistent top 16. Grappler difference as usual. And this gives us, once again, I know I've stated this for every one, but it kind of paints our low tier picture. And this one, the best so, because it shows you even Kirby, DDD, and Dr. Mario have none. And there are some that'd be like, this is a little interesting. Like Little Max got a little bit of results, and like Mega Man and Greninja do. And even Duck Hunt, but then you have characters like Link or Lucas a little bit lower than I would expect them if this was all according to like rankings of generally agreed tier list. But yeah, a lot of food for thought in this one, and shows that characters are dominant throughout all levels. You have a little bit of mix here and there. And I think a lot that you can see in this one, and especially the S and A without the best players, is the characters that have major weaknesses, but they start to do better because you don't have players constantly exploiting them. Mainly like Ryu, the Grappler, all those characters in the top 32 that don't necessarily do super well at the top level. Now all of these ones that like can sometimes make it into the top 32, like Little Max making it a lot because it's a lot easier to run into people who don't know how to edge guard you and cover all of your options, or play the matchup safely, or destroy Yoshi because he doesn't have his disjoints, or footstooling him or something like that. This opens you up to the possibility of players not always knowing everything that they should and having the practice in the matchups. So again, a more realistic scenario. Really cool data overall. Not too much extra you learn besides like what is Mega Man doing, and Donkey Kong's either being picked more because he's easier or he is indeed better than Bowser. I'd more so go with the former. I think he's just an easier character for players to be adjusted to. and doesn't have as much trouble getting down as Bowser does, and doesn't have as many committal options getting down. So at least if you're wrong with DK, you're going to eat another Cloud up air, not they can do whatever they want to a Bowser that did down B or down air. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. This was really cool because seeing what a more realistic kind of tier list from results looks like is interesting to compare to, say, the new Backrooms tier list to see where are people maybe delusional and where are they right when they might not even be thinking the same way. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Remember, like, subscribe. Bye.